You may have been told to do exercises like this to train your Quadratus Lumborum muscle at the side of your core. I'm going to say that this is completely wrong. So we don't want to be doing exercises like this because it doesn't, let's just say, target that muscle in the way that people think it does. And what we're going to do is we're going to explore that over the next couple of slides. I'm going to help you understand the role of the Quadratus Lumborum and how it works with regards to exercise and how it works with regards to everyday movement and function of the core. What I'll then do at the end is help you understand some more effective exercises that will use that muscle a lot more effectively and how it works together with the rest of the core. So let's explore a little bit more about the QL or the Quadratus Lumborum, how it works and how we can go about being more effective with training, with core training, and using this muscle. So what we're going to start with is its location. And as you can see, what it's doing is it's joining this top part of the pelvis to L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L4, L3, L2, L1, and then to the ribs here. So it's bringing these three parts, so the ribs, the spine, and the hips, or the pelvis, it's bringing them together. So we've got three parts, that it's attempting to bring into one. Now the one we call our core. So that's what we know as our core, and then we've got these three parts. Now what this exercise, or part of what this exercise is trying to do, is it's trying to split these parts into their three individual parts, if you will. So that's what it's trying to do. Now, if we understand that the location of the muscle is the pelvis, the spine, and the ribs, and it's trying to bring those together. Now, what is the role of the torso or the role of the core? How does it work within exercise? Well, it's there to do one very simple thing, and that is prevent movement. So we want the core to prevent movement. Now what that basically means is we want our spine to maintain its neutral position. So we want it to have those three natural curves. So we want to hold this part of the lumbar spine in place. What we also want it to do is we want it to not buckle. So we don't want any sort of movement up or down where the spine will flex to the right or potentially flex to the left. So the spine wants to stay centered, if you will. So this muscle is one muscle that essentially what it's trying to do is compress this part of the spine together. So it's trying to compress the the pelvis, the ribs, and the spine, because when we compress them, it will stabilize it. What we then want to happen, so if you can imagine, you can see the hips and the pelvis here. Now obviously here we've got the femur, and we've got another one this side as well. Now the femur is surrounded by big muscle on one side and another big muscle on the other side. Now these are known as the glutes, or the gluteal muscles, gluteal group. Glute max on the back, glute minimus, and then glute medius, if you will. So we've got those three glute muscles. Now the glute medius, glute minimus will work alongside the Quadratus Lumborum to stabilize the pelvis from the femur upwards. So we've got this stabilizing forces of glute minimus, glute medius, quadratus lumborum. We've also got external obliques, internal obliques, erector spinae group, rectus abdominis on the front, obliques on the side, and the deeper muscle, transverse abdominis as well. All of those muscles work together to stabilize this area, the lumbar spine, to prevent movement in flexion, in extension, in lateral flexion to the right and in lateral flexion to the left, with the goal of keeping it centered. So it wants the spine to stay centered. Now, these muscles here, so the glute max and this joint, so the hip joint, is a freely movable joint. The glute max is a very powerful muscle. So this area wants to produce movement. I'm just going to put move there, but produce movement. So that is the role of the glutes and the hips, is to produce movement. Now, as I've mentioned, the quadratus lumborum is one part to be able to stabilize the area to prevent movement, because if we prevent movement here and stabilize and strengthen the core, we're going to be able to use more of the power that's created from the glutes, because it's going to be transferred down into the legs and the foot if we're doing a squat or a deadlift or if we're running or whatever it is. If we've got laxity and floppiness, let's say the technical term, if we've got floppiness in the spine or in the core and it's wobbling all over the place, forward and back, left and right, the power that we're creating here is going to get leaked out of the core, which is known as an energy leak. So what we want to do is we want to have a nice firm torso working so we can express the power that is created from this area. So what we want to be able to do is, as I've mentioned, is stabilize this area and strengthen this area to produce more power. So this is why it's not useful to do exercises that bend the spine like this, because it's not training the core as it's designed to be built. It's training the core by its individual parts. So if you've got a strong QL, it doesn't mean you've got a strong core. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to produce the power here. So what we have to understand is that we've got to train differently, so we bring all of this together, because essentially we're training an energy leak. And if we train the individual muscles, it doesn't mean that we're going to be training all of the individual parts and bringing them together. What it also doesn't mean is if we do this exercise, we're going to be isolating the quadratus lumborum, because external obliques, internal obliques, part of the erector spinae, all these different muscles are going to be involved in it as well. So in some respects, this type of exercise is flawed from the very beginning, because it's not training the core and the parts of the core to prevent movement, which then prevents the energy leaks when we create movement from the hips and from the glute max or the quads or wherever we're creating the movement from in the hips. So that, in some respects, is why we don't want to be doing this exercise. And what we're going to talk about in the next slide is some alternative exercises to be doing instead. In this image, you can see two males holding heavy kettlebells either side of them. Now, these are much more effective exercises to train the lateral aspects of the torso. So you can see the top of the pelvis just there. The ribs will be somewhere in this region. So the QL will be in there. And obviously the same on the other side. So I'm not going to say this exercise will isolate the quadratus lumborum. It will be active and it will be engaged in this exercise, but what you are really doing is training the lateral aspects of the torso. And what you are training them to do is, when this foot is lifted from the floor, or this leg is lifted from the floor, this quadratus lumborum, so the one on the opposite side, will engage to prevent the spine from collapsing to the right. And then when you put that foot down and lift this foot up, this Quadratus Lumborum will engage to prevent the spine bending, this time to the left. So we have to understand, first of all, the role of the QL as its part, or the part that it's playing within the torso and the core. If we can understand that better, we can start to choose exercises more effectively. Because if we're choosing these spine bending exercises, we aren't training the muscles to work together, and we aren't training them what they are built to be trained for in that respect. So we're not training them for their function. Their function is to prevent movement, to keep the spine centered, and to prevent energy leaks as we move. So we are using glute max here and here to produce our movement, and then we are using QL, obliques, rectus abdominis, internal obliques, rectus spinae are there to stabilize this area, so it gives a much more effective platform for the freely movable joints or the glutes or the hip muscles to work that much more effectively. So in some respects, we want to get away from spine bending exercises like these lateral bending exercises. So when you see them on the internet, you're going to see them. People are going to tell you how great they are. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to sell you an exercise that isn't effective, because they're trying to isolate a muscle that doesn't work very well in isolation. It works much more effectively when put together as a group, and the whole becomes the greater than the sum of its parts, i.e. the core works much better when muscles are working together. So what we want to be doing is using these types of, and this exercise is known as the farmer's carry. If you put one of these kettlebells down, it becomes a suitcase carry. So these are much more effective exercises at training these lateral aspects of the core, which includes the QL, to hold the spine stable, the pelvis stable, and create more power from this area of the body, so you're able to get greater movement efficiency, if you want to call it, strength from it. So it's going to be a much more effective exercise for you. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you're able to then sort of demystify and see through some of the not so effective exercise coaching that's out there. So by choosing these types of carrying exercises, you're going to get much more from this area of the body. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Christopher Hole Training. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.